And we're back with another gasoline explosion. This time we added the shockwaves and the explosion is a bit bigger. Also, I'm using the pyroburst source as an emitter. So if you don't want to use the fancy custom emitter, if you want to use the pyroburst source for some reason, this is how you do it. So basic pyroburst source, I don't think I changed anything except the shape offset. You rasterize it. Here, if you want, you can also rasterize in color. Just change the color to a dusty black or white color. I was just using this for testing. By now you should know how to source color, so I'm not going to go through it. So we source everything. I'm adding some volume controls on this side, so you can multiply the specific volumes if you wish. Blasting density, renaming it to pressure, temperature, and then isolating just density. All this together will give us density, pressure, and temperature. On the right side, well, here we have density, renaming it to fuel, and then adding some fuel controls here. And then on the right side, we are creating the influence and influence vel from density and V. So renaming V to influence vel, renaming density to influence. Merging, caching, and then simulating. The trick here is in the pressure field. A lot of the poppiness happens from the pressure field. You can see without the pressure field, it's quite pathetic. But with the pressure field on, if you put it to 2, that's how you get that nice kick. Now, if you add too much, it's going to become a big ball of fire, which, you know, if you're looking at nuclear explosions, that's kind of what would happen. I mean, people are complaining about the mushroom shape of explosions, but if you look at some real examples, you do get that. You get it sometimes. It just depends how much pressure and velocity the actual explosion has. But these shapes are quite cool. Like once we're past the early stage, if you would like to, you know, disturb this more, you could add more turbulences in the beginning. So here you can see I'm animating this in a funny way. What I'm saying is fit my $F, so the frame, between 1400 and 1416, which means at 1400 here, this turbulence value will be 30, and at 1416, so here, it will animate this to 5. So this is kind of a procedural way of animating. You don't have to do it, you can do it manually, but this is just another way of doing it. So the first turbulence, so I guess turbulence number 2 is the bigger one with the swirl size. So we can say, well, let's put it to 100 and see what happens. Maybe that will break our initial shapes. And it kind of does. As you can see, we don't have just a mushroom anymore, but we do have some dimples happening here, which is good. Let's increase the other one as well. Let's see what we get. Yeah, that kind of helps. And now we can maybe just play with the offset until you get something that we like a bit more. So you can see if your shapes are a bit too uniform, you can start breaking them with some initial turbulences, making them quite high, so it will break up the emitter. I kind of like this one. So once you have that, you can cache it. I'll do a separate cache of this one here. Just blazing through the simulation like that. I think that's enough. So if you get this error when you forcibly cancel the simulation, just send this feature to console and then control and go to the first frame and you're going to be okay. So retime, pyrobake, bam. So the pyrobake takes a bit longer. Oops, I guess we should have cached a bit more. But another thing with the scatter, if I go to my previous cache, like so, it's a good thing to know that you can animate your temperature range. So if you put this to 0, 1, you can see your whole explosion will be just glowing like that. And if that's what you want, that's great. But in most cases, I don't want this to have temperature, but there are still some temperature areas in here. So what you can do is you just start eroding them. Oops, I went too far. So, 1, 2, and in my case, 3 was what I wanted. So these values are very small. You can just simply refit them with this range, and that will give you the look that we want. All right, that's it for this side. And then the shockwaves, very simple. I'm also using the Houdini Pyro Burst, setting it to a shockwave. You can also see you have explosion, muzzle flash, blast ring, shockwave. It's pretty good. It's gonna get the job done. Not doing anything much, adjusting some of the velocities, adjusting the attribute noise on the density. You can see how that looks if I disable it. Rasterizing, density, temperature, velocity, animating the density down. And that's pretty much it. Adding a ground collider and then simulating. Bam. That's what you get. And then I cache it and retime it. I add a pyro bake at the end with some variance in the density with the color. And then the same thing on the other side, just the emitter is a bit smaller and it has more temperature, I believe. So it was lifting up in the air faster. So this one, I wanted it to be close to the actual source of the explosion. And the other one, I wanted it to be larger and more affecting the larger area of the explosion. So this one is more like this. And again, goes up, and I'm using some of the color variations with the density. That's pretty much it for this one. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and see you in the next one.